program. Could you please state your name?
My name is Carl Cunningham.
Carl, where do you live?
I live in Ninewood Court, formerly known as Frog Hollow. That's the old-fashioned name for
Yeah,
Ninewood
right.
Court.
Have you lived in Hoosick Falls all your
I
life?
lived there all my life, except for the service, but outside of that, I'm a native.
You're a native. All right, now, could you tell me a little what you did before you went into the service?
I graduated from St. Mary's Academy in 1938. I worked for a short period of time in the Hoosick Falls Undergarment, and I went from there to the Kalaska. The Kalaska, I worked my way up there. I was assistant foreman and head inspector. This was all synthetic rubber. Most of your synthetic rubber in World War II was made here. And they, in turn, sublet it to Bosch Loam and Scintilla, all these other companies that use ignition parts.
And they were located in the old Walter A. Wood
That's right.
factory building.
And then a fellow by the name of Edward Hefferman, he was superintendent, came over to me one day and they said, "Would you like to go in the machine shop?" And I said, "I don't know anything about machine work." And he said, "Yes, you do. You've been going to night school." I said, "We found out about it." So I ended up for, I don't know, 6, 8 months in the machine shop with Oscar Christoph, Roy North, Bob Dort, and then Uncle Sam says, "I want you." From there.
You were drafted?
No, I enlisted.
Enlisted?
I enlisted in the Navy. I was advised by a fellow by the name of Tommy Carr that I worked with down there in the Alaska. And so I enlisted,
When was that, when you enlisted? Do you remember? I mean, you know the year, I'm sure.
Oh, yes. I enlisted somewhere around October, and I went in November. And I took the oath November 2nd, 1942.
Okay, so you were
Ed Loomis and Shirley was with me. We ended up in F-19, which is the barracks number, in Sampson, New York. We're on the second floor. In fact, the three of us were together through boot camp. And from boot camp, I was sent to Memphis, Tennessee, where I went through aviation machinist school. That was around a 6-month course, exhilarated course. From there, I went to a radar school. Radar was unknown at the time. So we had to take an oath that we got shot down over Germany, we could, we could surrender. If we got shot down over Japan, we were supposed to start shooting. That was the oath we took. And from there, I went to Hollywood, Florida. Hollywood, it was a basic gunnery school. So we started Gunnery. I volunteered for that. So then I went from there to Lake City, Florida, and that was operational. And from there I went to Beaufort, South Carolina. In the meantime, I was always bumping into a fellow from Hoosick Falls, Glenn Banks, Ray Delury, George Pappas. We all went to school together. Jack Powers, the postmaster in Eagle Bridge. And from Beaufort, South Carolina, I came through Hoosick Falls. I squeezed out about 7 days here and went from here to Whidbey Island, which was north of Seattle. And I was waiting for a squadron. We were supposed to go in the squadron, and a draft came through for 10 aviation machinist mates, and I was on the draft. I ended up in Shelton, Washington, which is below Olympia. And that was a former CC camp. No gates, no fences, no nothing. We had a ball up there. But the unusual part of it was, I was advised by an old-time chief, we were going to duck the draft. He says, "No, you better go along with it, even if mess cooks draw flight pay." And of course, I was on flight status. Well, we figured, what the heck, so we went, and we're flying basically in an Army plane, a B-26. And it was a squadron called Utility. Well, I never heard of it. We found out we were supposed to be able to do just about anything that was up for grabs. We towed targets. We flew, even the game wardens, we flew them up around Shelton and Washington, counting the ducks up there. So at that point, there was no guns on the plane, so I ended up as a second mech on a civilian plane, a twin-engine plane. And then we got transferred sometime around February to Pearl Harbor, Ford Island. and we still were operating B-26s. And then we picked up PBYs and TBFs. I was checked out in TBFs. I've become a crew chief. And from there we went to, I met, let's see, Norm Scott on the Bella Wood. He was a Fleet Marine.
Yeah.
George Pappas showed up, and he was in the TBF. And so...
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was your job then? To fix planes and keep them going? That was the job?
Here I am. I'm on flight pay.
Yeah.
And I was a combat air crewman, but somehow I went back to the original trade that I was trained for, and that was an aviation machinist, working on planes.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So at Pearl Harbor, a chief came out one day and he says, Cunningham. I said, yeah. You want to go into hydraulics? I said, I don't know anything about hydraulics. He said, that plane you got you're having more trouble with hydraulics than anything else. I said, okay. So I ended up going into the hydraulic check. I had no schooling, no nothing, and I started picking it up. So they put me with a fellow from Cincinnati called Regan, and he was a real craftsman. And we ended up working as a team, and we worked just about on any plane that came in or we had there. And we had all kinds of planes. We had B-24s, we had a couple of them. We had the amphib planes, we had PBYs, we had B-26s, TBS, F-6s, which is a fighter plane. So I worked on all these different types. So then we got transferred to Henderson Field, Guadalcanal. And we were operating there, and we acted as the enemy. The Marines hated to see us coming. We'd drop flour sacks on them, goof up their radar, tow targets, and we'd lose a plane once in a while that way. We lost one at Pearl. The whole crew, they claimed they got hit with a 5-inch shell. They were supposed to send up a radio-controlled plane. Instead of that, we sent up a regular B-26, and they shot it down. So anyway, getting back to Guadalcanal, Bud Barber was there, the mailman, and they made donuts over there, some fellow from Schenectady, so every Sunday night I'd make sure I got over to see Bud. Lynn Chapman came down. He was playing with Bob Crosby's orchestra. We went over and we had quite a time with Lynn. And then I forgot, but there was a lieutenant by the name of Ford. And we were talking one day about the Siena College ball game, another fellow and I from Waterford. And he turned, he said, are you fellas talking about Siena College? And I said, yes, sir, we are. He said, well, I went to school there. I said, you did? He said, yeah. I said, where are you from? Well, you wouldn't know. I said, well, where's that? He says, North Bennington. And I looked at him and oh, Christ, I said, you used to hang out up at Hedges Lake. I was familiar with him. He worked with, I would say, Bud Barber. He worked with the Frank Aricks as a waiter. So he was a pilot in my outfit, and he married the Hefferman girl. So anyway, we stayed there, I think, 6 months, and then we turned around and came back into the States. We come home, and then went back out to San Diego, North Island. And by that time, I was in charge of the hydraulic shack. The only thing is, you're supposed to have an H side of your name, and I didn't have it. So everybody was puzzled, who's this Cunningham with no, he's in hydraulics in charge and yet no schooling. So then the German war was over with. We still had Japanese. So we're getting set to end up in China for 1.5 years. We run on a rigorous schedule. It was a peculiar outfit, but everything was good in it, so I didn't mind. And I'm out there bringing in a plane, and a photographer come running out, and the whistles start blowing. The war was over with. So I never did get the picture, but it's a picture of me.
I see.
My buddy that morning, he took all the shots, the calorie shots, and you name it. He was sicker than a dog, and he never lived that.
He was being shipped. They were going
I never got the shots.
Yeah, but you're going to be shipped to China then.
Oh yeah, we were on a regular schedule. I told Bud Barber that in Guadalcanal, I said, but we're going to be here 6 months and we're going back in. And he said, oh, they all say that, but we run on a regular schedule. There was 20 squadrons in the whole Navy, and there was about 300 enlisted men in each squadron. And we all had 9 B-26s. But then we had a variety of you name it. And we did submarine patrol and a PBY. And we were the outfit that flew Bob Hope, Jack Benny, Jerry Cologne, Francis Langford, Patty Thomas, all over the Pacific. And the plane in the Reader's Digest states it's an Army plane. It wasn't an Army plane, it was a Navy PBY. And when it came back, I worked on it. But they used to fly in, and they'd have a party, and then they'd fly back out again.
When were you in the station in Guadalcanal? Had Saipan taken place in Okinawa?
Saipan was taking place because we were in the outfit that just before the invasion, we'd do all this work with them. We'd act as the enemy. This is when the Marines knew this. So when they'd see our outfit coming, they knew they were going in someplace. And we'd fly at night, drop flour sacks on the boys, and we'd goof up their radar with tinfoil, anything that an enemy would try.
I see. Okay, so then what happened? You came back, the war was over, the Japanese war, that was over in September of...
Yeah, I came back in between Christmas and New Year's, because New Year's Eve, they had plans of a party in the beach of California and also the Orange Bowl game. We had tickets and so forth. Instead of that, I ended up on Times Square. And I gladly would have stayed there, but Uncle said, no, you're going home. So we practically hitchhiked across the country. My order said I was in charge of 25, and each one said we were in charge of this group of 25. And we came on Alito Beach, and I think around January 4th, I made it home. I called my mother on January 1st, and my brother had called. We were both in New York, but we never, never bumped into each other.
All right, and then when were you discharged?
But in between that period of January 1st and January 4th, because I called home at about January 4th, and they said, my mother said, where are you? I said, I'm still in New York. I just got discharged. You coming home? I said, no, I'm heading for Dumont, New Jersey. I had a buddy of mine over there. So she talked me into coming home.
So then, when was that now? That was January
1946.
46.
I started to investigate going to Alfred University because they had all that hydraulics and so forth. And they wrote back and said, try again next year. Well, I got involved then with my brother. I'm running the Hoosick Falls Lumber Company. So I took a bookkeeping course, GI course with Sid Urbach, a professor of Siena College. And I took that, and I took several courses in Hudson Valley. And of course, unfortunately, we got burned out twice with that lumberyard. So,
where was the lumberyard located?
That was right down in the hollow in Cary Avenue.
Oh, I see.
So I used to do the layout work and the books and so forth. When we first started, I used to run the trucks. Then I got into the bookkeeping end. So then I went from there to a short period up to Reynolds Tool and Die, and then from there I worked for Metropolitan for 4 years. And from there
There was Sammy Shaw worked for
I took the place
of
Metropolitan Life. I took the place of Harry Crane, but not the same debit. I ended up in Valley Falls, and a lot of night work.
I see.
So I finally quit that, and there was an opening with People's Gas and Oil, so I ended up as the general manager of People's Gas and Oil for from 1961 to 1974.
Yeah, you were doing that when I came.
Yeah, so then I bought out another small company and built that up in 10 years and sold that, and here I am.
I see. And when you got married in between sometime?
Yeah, I held out longer than the average guy, I guess, 1954.
I see.
And
you married Norma?
Wonderful years, yeah.
What was her maiden name?
Tilly.
Tilly?
Tilly Landers involved. She, her people came from, they trace them back to Grafton. And her brother is into that, and he's tracing back to, they come up to Connecticut Valley.
A lot did come up here from
there. Yeah, the old homestead is still right on top of the mountain up there, the open air places where the Tillys were.
I see.
And there is a tie-in with the Tillys, with the Tilly ladder.
All right, so when did you retire, actually stop working?
Well, I didn't realize my age bracket. I was approached a few times, and I had a wife and a boxer dog, and that was it. And so I was 65 when I retired.
Oh.
And I'll be 79. And
Oh, God, you look great for 79, man. You give people hope.
well, we've been swimming this morning. We go down to the Lansingburg Boys Club. Yeah, I'll be 79 February 13th. And I'm in the average, from what I understand, of the World War II vets. Their age bracket is up in there.
Right.
And they're really passing out fast. And
Yeah.
I've had a lot of buddies I used to call, and they're no longer there.
Yeah. How about that? You fit it. That was your uniform, wasn't it? Because we got it up in the museum here.
Yeah, I found that, and I figured this is a wonderful place for it. I bought that in 1945 in San Francisco. It's Chinese serge. Let's see it. Yeah, it's got a zipper in it. You talk about women, these sailors. This is strictly illegal as far as the Navy's concerned, but we all had them. The belt bottoms, I think, are 16-inch. And I had to buy a new outfit when I got to come in from overseas, and so I bought this in San Francisco. It hasn't got all the emblems on it here. It should have an aerial gunner's badge right here, which I never got. My father and mother never knew I flew, so I didn't. If you'd see any pictures of me and my buddies would always tip the shoulder this way so they wouldn't know it. So there's supposed to be an aerial gunner right here with wings on it, and over here was supposed to be a radar badge. And there was 3 classes of radar, and we didn't only get the turn the knobs, we got the whole theory. We weren't supposed to. And they discovered what was going on, and they stopped it. One fellow was at the bar, I guess, in the Peabody down in Memphis, and somebody in there must have been Naval Intelligence, and what's that badge? And he said, radar. And, well, what's radar? And he told him. So after that, no more badges. You can't wear the badges.
I see.
But that's quite a school. That's still in existence.
Oh, yeah.
And Barber, at a later date, went through there. In fact, it was funny, I was talking with him.
Which, Bert?
Is it Mike? Or,
oh, Mike Barber.
yeah, he works for Niagara Mohawk.
Yeah,
he just
Mike,
retired.
yeah.
He was in barracks 43. I happened to say something, and I said, what barracks you're in? He said, 43. I said, so was I. Only I was about 25 years before him.
Yeah.
But I could lay on my bunk and look up and see George Pappas in the next barracks over. And we used to meet in Memphis. They had a big park there.
Because I noticed in some of the clippings, he received the Distinguished Flying Cross.
Oh, yes.
George
He
Pappas.
is in one of them that you read about in the Reader's Digest, where they turned all the lights on so they could come back in. Well, George was in it. He was ordnance. He was a gunner on a TBF. And I was about the same size as George at the time, and they tried to fit me in that turret, and they couldn't get me in it. I didn't want nothing of that TV. So I took bombers, PV-1s, which is submarine warfare. Glenn Banks and I were both trained on submarine warfare.
I see.
And Glenn, I met Glenn, by the way, up in Whidbey Island. And we chatted. He was in a squadron there. And we used to always kid back and forth.
Well, is there anything else you'd like to say either about the service or about Hoosick Falls, or anything you'd like to put on tape? It's going to be a permanent tape in the museum here.
Hoosick Falls, it was a good place to bring up children. We had no children, but it's still a good place for children. A lot of history, more so than people realize. I'm looking now, which you can't see, a picture of the Walter A. Wood. My father worked there, and my grandfather, they tell me, was some kind of a superintendent painting of the carts and wagons and all that stuff. And my father was a molder there, and I had another uncle that was a molder too. And I can remember standing there as a kid and watching him come across that bridge, and it'd be packed with people.
Yeah, so many people have told us that.
Oh, yeah, yeah. We had all these little stores, even the school system. I went to Center Street School. You walked
Yeah. I interviewed Kostempic and we went through
Oh, yeah,
that.
yeah, see, Kais, I remember Kais before,
Yeah.
you know, we're all born and brought up together here. And we had, what, Plastic Street right down here?
Yeah, we're gonna do a little section on schools.
Are you?
Yeah.
The only thing I did read in one book, and they had cigar makers in there, but they didn't realize there was 2 other cigar makers in the back of Kenny Odell's store.
Yeah. There were cigar makers. That's in our history books about Hoosick Falls.
Yeah.
Well, Carl, I thank you a lot for coming, and we appreciate, and best to you.
Thank you.